Let's spar. Remember how this works? All right. My guest on the podcast always gets to go first. And as you know, the first speaker can speak their conscience. So you can agree or disagree with the question as you actually believe, and I will respond to whatever you say. Now, if you feel ambivalent and you don't really have a strong opinion or position, then you can let me go first, and then you can respond to what I say. It's completely up to you. All right. School, is it a dangerous place?
I'll let you go first for this one. I think I can go either way.
All right, very good. In that case, I'm going to say yes, school is a dangerous place. I mean, it doesn't hold imminent danger for every student at every moment. In fact, it's quite a safe place, and that's why parents bring their kids to school and can kind of entrust that other responsible adults are guiding their children and taking care of them, and no physical harm will come to them. However, within the confines of these trusted adults, we have a bunch of kids. And wherever there are a bunch of kids, there is mayhem. And if you don't believe that, all you have to do is step out on a recess, right? Recess at school is about as crazy a place as you'll ever find. I remember at recess when I was in grade 6, there was a group of boys out there, and their game was beating each other down with their fists clenched into like a hammer. And they had 3 guys with sledgehammer fists beating down one guy, and the game was how long can he stay up until he's beaten down to the ground. And so you imagine this kind of stuff is happening at school while you're under the care of trusted adults. But you would
All right,
disagree.
well, I'm not sure if this is just something that happened at your school, but really, I don't think this is something that happens generally at most schools. I think you said it yourself, the fact that parents really to trust the school system to bring their child to school every day and to leave them there for like 6 hours. I think that really just shows how safe it truly is because parents are truly the most protective people on the planet of their children. And I think if they're able to give them up and put them at school, because they can always just homeschool their child, or parents could speak out if they think that school is too dangerous. They can always, go to a school board counselor or someone who can make these changes. But because we see the school system functioning fine right now, we see parents happy with bringing their child to school. I think that overall it really proves how school is pretty much safe for everyone who goes. Or even if it's not necessarily safe for everyone in the status quo, there are definitely measures to make sure that it is incredibly
All right,
safe.
all right. You think of parents, I think their kids, by virtue of putting them in a school and making that choice, that they've made the safety choice. Let me tell you, as a parent, that thought never crosses our mind at all. We just want to make sure a kid gets educated and we go off to work. I don't think any parent has ever weighed if their kid is going to be safe at school unless something bad happens, and by then it's too late.
Right. Well, the fact that they don't have to think about whether or not this is safe to begin with before they send their child to school just shows that, it is a very trusted place.
Okay,
Like if
listen,
it was a
we're
place
only
known to
talking
be
about
dangerous.
physical harm. It's also dangerous because this is a place where parents send your kids to become educated, to open their minds, but really they're becoming indoctrinated and learning to become perfect consumers.
But I think it is much more dangerous for a child to not consume all this knowledge, for them to not see these perspectives. Maybe it'll be different from what they're taught at home, but the
Yeah,
fact
but
that they can be
imagine, like,
exposed to
isn't
these.
the knowledge and your education only as good as the teacher delivering it? What if the teacher is some yahoo? Nobody has any control over what happens in the individual classroom.
Well, then you are essentially saying that the
Sorry,
entire.
time's up. I'm just kidding. Sorry. We can keep talking about it. All right. So what do you think?
I think I think after I told you you could choose, I felt like I should probably say it is a dangerous place. But I
I
feel
was going
like,
with the angle of indoctrination, like, you're in danger of becoming of losing your zest for life. You're in danger of you're losing your joie de vivre. That thing your parents built you up to love life, to love the world, to trust everybody, and then at school,
but
it's like you got flat tire every day, and all of a sudden, the pressure of life falls down on you there.
don't you think having this like view of the world built up by your parents can also be dangerous in its own way? Because parents always want to generally parents agree with each other. Generally parents feel really strongly about the way they do and they generally want their child to agree with them. And if the child just goes along with their parent all the time, isn't that much more dangerous if they don't see the
Yes,
perspective of people
absolutely.
outside of them?
Wholesale, I completely agree with you. So in the long view, it's more dangerous to not have to deal with bullies at school and rush up against nasty teachers. It's dangerous to enter the world unarmed, ill-equipped to face all of the harshness and the brutal realities like you talked about. So yeah, you're right. You're right. Good conversation. All right, let's do this next one. Can we truly achieve anything, we human beings, if we simply put our minds to it?
I think so, yes. I'll go first with this one, and I'll agree with this. I think definitely we can achieve anything we really want, even if certain things seem extremely, extremely magical or extremely unrealistic in the world. There will always be a way to achieve this, even if it seems like folklore. I think what really proves this is if we look back at history, if we think about, when people are still trying to like marveling over the first motorized car, do you think they ever thought we could achieve, landing on the moon? Do you think they ever thought we could achieve, launching spaceships and stuff? I don't think we like right now we probably think there are definitely things we can achieve, but maybe in 100 years time that'll be like the norm for everyone, and it'll really be so normal and so simple that we'll think it's so weird that we ever thought we couldn't achieve this. And I think just humans progress over like thousands and thousands of years really shows how far we can come, and that's simply because we as humans have put our mind to it and we've put so much effort into
Yeah,
the
I
things
think
that we
we've
want to
also
achieve.
proven throughout human history that we can achieve great catastrophes together, and we can inflict an immeasurable harm on each other if we really put our minds to it. You know, the Nazi Third Reich under Hitler put their minds to how to kill an enormous amount of people in a way that wouldn't distress the people killing them. And so they put their minds to it and created the most perfect killing machine. So this works. Listen, can we collectively? I think this whole question falls on the definition of the word we, because by we I thought we meant we, every individual human being, by virtue of putting our minds to it. Because if that were the case, then you know if I wanted to become a billionaire and I put my mind to it, then it should be able to work. But we all know that becoming a billionaire is a dime is it's almost like a miracle, and it requires much more than hard work. So in that case, I could never become a billionaire simply by putting my mind to it.
Right, but as you said, like we as a collective, I think if a group of people wanted to be a billionaire, I think it's definitely a lot more likely than a single person. But even as like a single person, what's stopping you from being a billionaire? I think there are definitely ways you can become a billionaire, even if it seems extremely like unattainable.
But I think there's almost like victim blaming mentality by telling people if you put your mind to it, you can achieve it. Because then if you don't achieve it, it's because you didn't try hard enough. It's your fault. When we know that the
Well,
odds are stacked up against them, and the chances of them achieving it is almost nil. So to say that it's their fault that they couldn't achieve it is it's kind of unfair.
well, would you say that anything in this world is impossible? If you agree that anything in this world is technically possible, then even if there is a like a really, really, really small chance, it is still possible and we can still achieve it. Wouldn't you agree?
I think if we can manage to survive as a species, then there's no limit to what we can achieve. But can we achieve surviving and existing? I don't know. That's the big question mark. All
I
right.
think, yeah, that's the big question.
But dude, I really do have faith in humanity. And I also have faith that cooler heads will prevail. Like in this sort of the struggle between light and darkness, you know, I'm on a fan of, I think the lightness will prevail. Only lightness can push out darkness. I do have faith like that in humanity, but the the powers of darkness, the ignorance out there, the ignorant people far outnumber the wise people, the enlightened people. It's almost exactly like Star Wars. Like the dark side is way bigger than the light side and the rebel, but still they managed to stave off the dark side with the rebel forces. Right? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely agree that there are more like ignorant people than there are truly smart people in this world. But I think just having a few smart people, like maybe there's a ratio where one smart person can account for a lot more ignorant people. And it's just natural that we'll have people who aren't as smart as everyone else. So I think just the fact that we have ignorant people doesn't mean we can't achieve things because we've had ignorant people for thousands of years, yet we've still like come to where we are today. And so I think
I look at it like I always look at everything like Star Wars. So when you have a couple of Jedi's, and if everybody is doing their part, it's like I don't expect you to fix the world on your own, and you don't expect me to fix the world, but I expect you to do your part and to create a light in this world. And you can count on me to do the same. And whatever it is I'm doing, I'll create my own light. And then if we join our lights together, then we can create a beacon of light. And that light can push out the darkness. And that's how I see it. So I think as long as sort of we're all fighting the good fight in our own way, collectively, we can create a strong, strong beacon of light that can stave off the darkness, right? But this idea that the world is in constant turmoil and conflict between good and evil and darkness and light, and the same turmoil is playing out in every single individual human. And so sometimes I feel like, it requires fighting hard to remain on the light side. And how many of us are resolved and are determined to fight that fight? How many of us just give in to the dark side, just are tempted to, because we're just lazy or weak? All right. I don't know if you know these people. That's Kim Kardashian there. Do you know the Kardashians?
I do.
Okay, good, good. And then the other fellow is Jake Paul from the Paul brothers, and both of them are internet famous people. They both, I guess, became Insta-famous by a viral YouTube videos, and then grasped onto their fame, and then catapulted themselves into the spotlight. And now they're both super wealthy, super famous. So when parents, the parents of today, they're watching their kids, and a lot of kids, even in my classrooms, I hear the kids, they profess to wanting to become YouTubers as if that's a viable business option. And parents like me, we kind of scoff at it, go, oh, yeah, right. You better become a doctor or a lawyer. But is becoming a YouTuber a viable career choice? Because we see people doing it. And, if your kid is thinking about that, wanting that, is ambitious to do that, should you as a parent stand in their way or encourage it? What do you think?
I think, yeah, definitely. Parents should definitely encourage their children if they want to, pursue YouTube, or, if their goal is to become Insta famous. I think the same way parents should encourage their children to do whatever they want to do. I think this really is no different. Like, what makes, wanting to be a YouTuber different from wanting to go to med school? Like, the parent might think, this might not be sustainable. It might not actually work. You might fail along the way. It might take a lot of time. But really, that's simply the same for every single career. And like, med school costs so much money, yet parents still, encourage their children to go. It costs so much discipline, yet, a lot of the kids don't have this discipline to really encourage them to go through the entire process. So I think it doesn't matter what profession they want to do. It just matters that if this is truly what the child wants to do, um, they will put in the effort if this is really what they want to do. And if it isn't, and if it ends up failing, this is also a really, really good lesson for them, because they can fail in
Listen,
any
I
profession. This is no
completely
different.
disagree. As a parent, if my children start showing signs of wanting to become YouTubers or instant famous, that would be a big red flag for me. You said that what's the difference between a kid wanting to go to med school or aspiring to be a YouTuber? Well, for one thing, if you're in med school, your career is going to be helping other people to save their lives, to devote yourself to service, which I find a noble pursuit. But being a YouTuber it's about turning the kind of the spotlight onto yourself. It's all about me, me, me. So it's just kind of like shameless self-promotion. And how good is that for the soul? Like, what service are you providing for the world? And how can you equate that to being a surgeon or a doctor? This idea about discipline, maybe not all kids have discipline to go to medical school or law school, but I would think to actually break through and become a YouTuber and do it better than all those other kids who are trying also requires some form of discipline. And would you want your kids spending all their waking hours trying to become a YouTuber or trying to become a doctor?
Well, if you do agree that it requires discipline either way, wouldn't you agree that it would make disciplining the child a lot easier if this is what they truly want to do? If they really like, if they're really passionate about making videos, they're passionate about like creating content, why would you make them study for 6 hours a day and want?
Okay, because as a parent, I know that one of your objectives as a parent is to make sure that your kid has kind of some substance and has an emotional foundation to live their life off of. And being a YouTuber just seems so shallow. Like, what is it? How's that going to fill their soul and create any kind of foundation?
Well, I think you're painting being like a YouTuber or an influencer in like a very negative light. I think you mentioned that it's very dishonorable compared to things like surgeons, and I think to an extent this is probably true. But if we didn't have this entertainment in our lives, how
Well,
would we
I'm only
like
thinking
seek
this way
this?
because I'm staring at Kim Kardashian, who made a name for herself by shaking her booty on the camera, and now is raising a bunch of spoiled kids with an ex-husband rapper who's become a white supremacist Nazi. Sorry, Kim Kardashian. Please don't sue me. Oh my goodness. Sorry, Jake Paul. You know what? The truth is, I just had to respond to you, but I don't know. Like, I'm trying to become a YouTuber right now as we speak. And the reason I started doing this podcast is because my buddy Andrew visited me, and he's the same age as me, 51. He was in Korea, and he said, "Oh, my buddy, his thing is he goes around Thailand and does little videos. And this is me in Thailand doing this. This is me in Thailand using the natural, interesting, beautiful backdrop of Thailand in every video, and he produces them really nicely. And 3 years later, he had 365,000 followers, and YouTube started sending him about $20,000 a month for this. And so that's a
Amazing.
viable business. Like, it's like, if somebody has that skill, that tenacity, that ability to do that, why would anyone stand in their way? That's a good job, and we just find it hard to believe because that job didn't exist back in my day.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's definitely not for everyone, but if everyone was discouraged to be like a YouTuber because it's hard at the beginning because you don't make any money at the beginning, I think, well, why would we even have any YouTubers? And, people go on YouTube every day. I think you and I both find it a really interesting form of entertainment. And I think if everyone was
I
discouraged, we
do,
wouldn't
but
have
there's
any.
one thing, since I've been doing more and more of this social media presence, one thing I've noticed is disturbing reports about how YouTubers have committed suicide or that they fall into depression because they're so famous, right? The spotlight comes on them. So I'm wondering if this is a new phenomenon that people are kind of, because we know in traditional fame, people put you up. The reason you become famous is because everybody agrees that you're going to be elevated. So it's not you're not actually elevated. It's just that we all agree to it. So therefore you're famous. And by that very nature, we can all agree to make you unfamous as well. And the mob does this, and we can decide from one day to the next that we don't like you anymore, and then you can fall from grace with the public. And then all of a sudden, that fall from grace is extraordinary, and it's hard to deal with. And so we see a lot of YouTubers in trouble, suffering in mental, I guess, illness. And what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something really, really scary. And I think that makes, being a YouTuber probably something that I wouldn't be able to handle. I think there are people like the YouTubers who are successful, um, are able to handle this like emotional stress because you might not be able to understand. I might not be able to understand it because I feel like I would really suffer from this. But some people might just like not care. And I think for these people, being an influencer and being in the public spotlight might just be the job for them. So yeah, I
All
think
right.
it really differs for everyone.
Okay, good job.